35 students to 4 million odd. What's that moment when you realize that this could truly become a $1 billion enterprise?
Every admission, every single admission, we would celebrate as if it was like the biggest thing that has happened. So we had agreed that even if we don't make any money from this, so we walked into this whole thing journey with the idea that we are committing our life for education, not with the intent of making money. To be operating from your identity is very limiting, but to be operating from your vision is very powerful. Systems drive behaviors, not training.
If you had a giant billboard and could put a one-line message to millions of students out there, what would that message be? Sumeet, welcome to Qunba.
Thank you.
Season 3. Firstly, big fanboy moment for all of us here. And so, been a big fan of how the whole lead group has built up. And strangely through Native, I was in fact having a conversation with Supreet a couple of weeks back. And he was telling me, yeah, Mistry, I've just come out from 2 to 3 meetings over the last couple of months meeting founders in the edtech space. Some failed startups, some very successful startups, some funded by Stellaris and many other VCs, right? And a lot of the founders said if they had to redo their journey, and I actually quote some of them, that we would do it the way Lead has done it, right? So big, and that's how we reached out to your team. So absolute delight to have you here on season 3. We'll focus a lot on leadership today and your journey on Sumeet the Leader. But before we come to that phase, we'll go back a little in time.
Sure.
Okay, so we'll start with your journey back in Pathankot. We'll walk through a little bit of PEC and IIM, then PNG, and today how Lead's been built into this $1 billion company. Okay, so let's go back a little in time to the boy from that small town in Pathankot. And I was reading somewhere about the family dinner table conversations, right? How your dad would slice apples, rotis,
Yeah.
right? How did that shape your understanding, and did it somewhere drive the inherent passion on how learning needs to be different in today's day?
I mean, it's of course much clearer in hindsight. At that time, we just used to marvel and look up to him because he was this amazing teacher and he would turn any moment into like a teaching moment. So we would be having lunch or dinner. He's like, "Kya padha aaj?" And I would say fractions. He was like, "What is fractions?" And we would be like mumbling. He said, "Wait, pick up a roti and then say, ye kitna hai? 1. Break, ye kitna hai? 2. Ye kitna hai? 1 part of 2. So I just used to look at him in terms of, how he could turn any learning into a very relatable thing. I still remember he used to quote Robert Burns, Robert Frost, like "The woods are lovely, dark and deep," or "Oh my love, like a red, red rose." So teaching for him was not really teaching. It was just like his life, and he would perform in the classroom. I had the good fortune of actually being in his classroom in 11th and 12th.
Both your parents were teachers, right?
Both my parents were teachers, yeah. But my dad definitely has had a much higher influence on me as regards teaching. As a human being, of course, my mom too. So that actually told me that how can you be so much in love with what you do? That's, I think, what I took away from my dad, that if you really love what you do, then you can really excel in it. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things that he's taught us, which we would study in the school but not understand, but then come at home and then at the dinner or lunch table learn from him.
And you think some of those family moments, some of those lessons you still adopt in your leadership today in Lead?
Yeah, see, my dad used to say that, how will the student understand what you are teaching? So I'll give you an example.
Yeah.
This Robert Burns poem, it goes, "Oh my love, like a red, red rose that newly sprung in June." And then we were in Gurdaspur, he was teaching in Gurdaspur, very close to Pathankot. June is hot. He was like, June, May, there is no rose that blooms here, right? But this is a poem written in Scotland. So he would actually carry a map in the class to show people that you are in Pathankot. This story was written in Scotland. In June, Scotland has amazing weather, and that's how roses bloom. So his point was always that how do you make it relevant for students? I think that has stayed with me. When I look at a lesson plan today, I'm not looking at whether it is explaining geography or science well. I'm looking at how will it make sense to the student, because if it does, then they will understand. But if it is only from the perspective of a teacher, students are not going to get it. I think that was very, very important for me.
And I think even in a small town, teachers are very revered, right?
Yeah.
I know I've heard of instances where you would be walking down the street
So
with
many
your
times.
parents, and a lot of ex-students would come, greet him, pay respects to him. Did that some way influence your calling?
Definitely. I mean, Pathankot is a small town. We would go out for grocery shopping and stuff, and almost every time somebody or the other from a bank or a store would come out and say, Mehta sir, do you remember me? 20 years back, I was in your classroom. This is what you taught. I still remember. So the amount of respect he had in that town, we were all known as Mehta sir's kids. Like that was so. It told me that the influence of a teacher transcends the classroom. Even 20, 25 years after you've taught, it stays with you. So, I mean, now in hindsight, clearly my love for education and teaching, I think clearly comes from some of those incidents.
We dig further into that. So you went to this one of the best schools in that town, right? But I think you'll realize later it had a lot of limitations. What was it being like being a celebrated student in your hometown, not knowing that there is a much larger, bigger world out there?
I think, see, life till about 15 years of age was blissful because I was good in studies, I was good in sports and extracurriculars. So, vice head boy, all of those things would just come one by one. In, I think in ninth grade, we went to Delhi. Delhi was the southernmost I had traveled till then.
On a holiday?
No, we went for an inter-school competition.
Okay.
This was a vocabulary contest. I still remember we went to Delhi. I was with this another girl, Deepa, who was army kid, so she had traveled. So she was showing me that's Qutub Minar, that's IIT Delhi, that's this, that, this, and I was just looking out wide-eyed because it was my first time so far away from home. We went to that place. When I came back, I realized that again, not so clearly, but in hindsight, it's clear that Pathankot is so small and the world outside is so big because it was the first time I had competed with students from Delhi, Chandigarh, and stuff, right? And we stood second. So, from coming from a small town, it was a big thing. But it just opened up my eyes to the world outside Pathankot.
And going down further that path, then I think that was the next phase after that, right? When you went to PEC,
Yeah.
engineering college, right?
PEC was hard in the beginning.
Narrate a little bit of that, because that's a very interesting phase where I think quite a bit of pivots happened
Yeah.
in your mindset, right? So walk
See,
us through that.
If you've not faced failure ever, you think that basically everything is blissful, life is good.
Correct.
I had never experienced inadequacy, especially in terms of knowledge, skill, or ability. So when I went to PEC, I felt that I had done well. I've gone to this good college. Life will continue the same way. So I entered the hostel, and there were clearly two groups. One set of groups were people who would come from Chandigarh and Delhi, and then we were who would come from Pathankot, Muktsar, Jalandhar, all of that stuff. Very quickly in the first week, they started calling us Khuliyan Penta wale. Khuliyan Penta, if you know Punjabi, is like people who wear stitched trousers, and they would wear denim pants. And I'd never worn jeans till then because it was always stitched trousers in small towns. So this sense of exclusion I had never experienced. So I basically was taken aback. Like, what is this? Like, it's clearly that we are considered the inferior group and they are considered the superior group. So yeah,
You felt that's the first time you felt like talent isn't really enough.
Yeah.
It's the exposure.
It's also the background. I think at that time I was struck by the unfairness of it, to be honest. And and then the fighter in you kind of starts to assert your way, right? So there was this again inter college competition. People said, "Do you want to participate?" So I put up my hand. Somebody shut me down. Ki, "Tu kya karega?" I was like, "Why?" So the prof who was selecting said, "Why don't you write your speeches and come?" So that night I wrote and went, and he selected. So this guy from Chandigarh said, "Sir, इसने खुद नहीं लिखी है. His dad is an English prof, तो पक्का उनसे लिखवाइए." Like that's the kind of thing and I was like, how can you even say that? Anyhow, so I went, we won. When I came back, that's the time I started getting accepted. So I felt that my path to acceptance and assertion is not going to be just fighting. I have to show my ability, demonstrate it. Only then people will accept. So that was a hard lesson.
But what ran through your mind at that time, being this small town kid?
It was just that it's unfair that people who come from metros seem to have much bigger exposure, seem to have, like, it occurred to me that they seem to have had access to things that I never had. And therefore, people from small towns are disadvantaged in some way.
So did you have to do a lot of exceptional things to kind of prove yourself on that stage?
Definitely.
Did you have to work a lot more? What did you kind of have to do differently from the rest of the students to bridge that gap?
I think just prove in academics, in extracurriculars, in sports. So whether it was the college cricket team or the college debate team or the declamation team or just scores. So once they started to see that, at least in all of these things, he's definitely ahead. It was like, then it wasn't like a choice. They had to kind of accept. So I had to kind of fight my way through into getting into being accepted as like part of the group. But a lot of others were not, because their communication ability or their other aspects which were nothing to do with engineering excluded them.
And I think even after that experience at PEC, I think it kind of extended to IIM as well, where you got in 97, 99, I think you're that batch, right? And you've mentioned this often, this deer in the headlights moment. What was it about that environment that made you feel so frozen and overwhelmed? Was it that because you kind of had done that, you kind of faced the boys in Chandigarh, in Delhi, and so did that extend into Ahmedabad as well? And what was so overwhelming about it?
When you go for a trek and you see a peak, you reach that peak and realize, oh, there's another peak.
Yeah.
I think life has been like that. So when I went to PEC, I kind of cracked it. But again, PEC is not one of the premier engineering colleges, right? There's IITs and NIT, PEC is an NIT, but there were IITs, and then there were colleges like St. Stephen's and Xavier's from Delhi, Kolkata, or Bangalore or Bombay. So when I went to IMA, I was like on the top of the world. I was the only person who had made it to IMA from PEC. So very fettered in the college and like given this grand farewell, "Acha, you are going to IMA." So I reach IMA.
The star-studded student of
PEC. Yeah, like, okay, I've made it. And then it was the first time I experienced in my life that I did not understand what was being taught in the classroom. I just did not understand. And I was like, how can this happen? It's never happened to me. How can this happen? And everybody else was getting it. There were people who were
like
CAs.
One subject, two, or just like...
So there was this managerial accounting. So my friends who were CAs, they could get it. I could never balance that balance sheet. I was like, how can I not understand something, right? So this was a very new experience for me. And then people who had come from IITs were very good in quant. So then I think we christened a name for ourselves that we are the poet quants, because we neither get quant nor do we get manic. So I think that is where I realized that, clearly there are people who are far smarter and far more capable than I am. And I think that was a freeze moment because I'd never experienced it before. So in the first semester, it was tough to just come to terms with the fact that you're not the best in the group or the cohort. I was always used to being that. And then coming to terms with it, I think was hard in the first semester in IMA.
But was there like a trigger moment or something in your mind that switched and pivoted
so
the next?
This thing now, whenever we have a stress moment, there is, of course, freeze and then fight.
Yeah.
The fight part of me started to find what is my niche there. Because this is not like quant and manic is not going to be. So I realized marketing I was good at. I was very good at extracurriculars. So I started to carve kind of a identity there and started excelling there. So there was this moment where I had to figure out my own identity in that place. Uh, and then I think after 2 years it was better. The first semester was tough.
So if I were to sum up PEC and Ahmedabad, right? This whole experience of feeling very inadequate on multiples, like you mentioned, right? Mountain, again another week, another challenge. Did this actually somewhere become like your superpower in understanding the challenges that are faced by millions and lakhs of kids in small towns?
I think the narrative I formed at that time was that life for children who come from small towns is hard. And students or children who are born in metros, they get much better exposure, they get much better facilities. Like when I was in PEC, I had this IMS correspondence course.
Yeah.
When I came to IIM, I realized everybody had taken some class or the other for GD, for interview preparation. I never did that. So I thought I got lucky, but there are so many others from small towns who don't get lucky, who don't have that exposure. So I think for some time of my life, I carried a sense of unfairness that students or children from small towns don't have it. I mean, it's not fair to them, and students from metros have it easy. I don't think I had converted this sense of unfairness to a sense of purpose still.
Yeah.
It was still unfairness till I went to PNG and went out of India. But it was very clear to me that there is clearly like a lacuna where students who are born in small towns don't have it at the same level as students who are born in metros.
But you're still, I mean, with all your hard work, perseverance, academic brilliance, you still a fewer percentage of the people that have made it from a small town to IIM Ahmedabad. If I'm watching this podcast today, I haven't even made it to the Ahmedabad, Bangalore, Lucknow, Cal, right? And I'm from a small town. What's your advice to that student?
Actually, now I think the fact is that knowledge is omnipresent with the internet. At our time, internet wasn't there. I mean, I sound like a dinosaur when I say this, but it wasn't. We did correspondence courses, right, for our JE or for our CET and for our CAT. Now I think it is going to be only upon a person if they don't get the exposure that they need, because ultimately, your birth is an incident, it's an accident. Where you were born is not in your hand, but where you get to is entirely in your hand. Today you can get the exposure. There is, I mean, online education is available, so you don't have to be constrained by the geography of your birth.
Yeah.
So I think my advice would be that get exposure as much as possible, because ultimately exposure, I have realized, is more important than knowledge.
Yeah, you can't, as they say, right, you can't choose the deck of cards you're dealt with. It's how you play the game.
How you play them, yeah.
Okay, let's fast forward a little now to PNG. After Ahmedabad, dream job, FMCG, get a chance to go to Singapore as well, right? Tell us a little bit about that experience. Walk us through the whole, because I think there your foundations in marketing, analytics, customer, right, insight. So walk us through that journey a little.
I think PNG was great. It's a great university where you're paid to learn. I learned a lot in PNG in the first 2 years. I had great managers. Again, if I just continue the metaphor of the trek, right? It's almost like when you reach the peak, you realize the futility of it. So I was doing quite well in PNG. After 2, 3, 4 years of doing it, we moved to Singapore. I started to ask myself, like, what am I doing? Because every time I would come back to India, that 5-hour flight basically was like a 25-year difference between Singapore and India. It was just gnaw at me that we're just 5 hours away, and every time I would come back to India, my dad by that time was overseeing some schools in Punjab, so I would accompany him to those schools. And I was like, yeah, it's been 20 years or 15 years since I moved out of school. Nothing has changed. Why are people doing rote learning? Why is this happening? Why is that happening? So after the 5th, 6th of that trip, my dad said, अगर इतनी तकलीफ है तो कुछ आके करते क्यों नहीं हो, right? But you know, I mean, both my parents were teachers, so it wasn't like I was at a place where I could leave because there was enough to kind of take care of us. So I continued to work at PNG, but I think I'd stopped loving that job after about the first 4-5 years, and I started to wonder what is the impact or what is the meaning my life is going to have in this world.
But you enjoyed the carpool.
That was quite early in the PNG days. That was while we were in India. Yeah. So I think PNG, the biggest gift it has given me is Smita.
Yeah. What were those? A little bit of a sidebar and a personal thing. What were those conversations like? That did something in those conversations trigger that, okay, this is the person I want to spend the rest of my life with, or I can build something and our purpose together? What were those carpool conversations like?
You know, I don't know where it has come from, but I've always kind of thought deeply about certain things like relationships or having kids and stuff. So on relationships, I've fought against these thing about false choices, right? When you're growing up, you have this thing about beauty or brains.
Yeah.
And any of us, when in college, it's like beauty or brains. And I was like, why does it have to be or? Why can't somebody who is intelligent be pretty and the other way around? Smita is the perfect combination, right? Beauty and brains. She's going to laugh at this when she hears this. But so I joined PNG, and I was very clear with my parents that I don't want to do an arranged marriage. I don't believe in that idea. So if I fall in love, I will get married. Otherwise, it's okay. So Smita walks into office one day. She was going to replace my finance partner. So I was in marketing and there was this guy in finance and he was leaving and Smita was going to replace him. So I was told to come to office on Saturday to hand over. So I was not very happy about it. So I'm working and then she walks in and I was like, oh, it's not too bad. So she walks in and then I think after that, for the first 5-6 months, it was just we were working together. Then it evolved into friendship. And I started really respecting her for how smart and intelligent she was. And she was from a rich family with a car and I was traveling the BST bus. So we were carpooling, 4 of us, Shweta, Ruchira, me and Smita. Then slowly Shweta and Ruchira dropped off, not entirely of their own volition, but my goading. And then Smita and me started traveling together and then one thing led to another.
But did you see co-founder traits in her then itself?
I didn't even know whether I would start up something on myself. I think the one thing that I really still all remember is that I felt that she had an independent streak of mind. She was very sharp because she was a CA, very sharp with numbers, and her attention to detail was amazing. I'm not a very detail-oriented person, and she was very detail-oriented. So we felt that we are very complementary in our skills at work. Until that, we hadn't fallen in love. It was just at work. I had deep respect for her. So when it come to later, in terms of working, it wasn't difficult. Yeah.
Okay. So sidebar on the leadership context overlapping with this particular topic. What's the most brutal feedback that she's given you about your leadership?
I think she basically, I am big ideas, big ambition. So she basically says कि उड़ना बंद करो, उड़ना बंद करो, have your feet on the ground. So the metaphor between me and her has been for the longest time, not in the last 4-5 years, but in the beginning, that I'm the branches and she's the roots. Like she would hold us in terms of how will the cash flows work, how will the numbers happen, how will it happen.
She's the detail, getting
and
to
I
the
would
devils
like,
in the detail.
Let's grow 10x, 5x, 20x kind of stuff, right? So that tension between wanting to take the leap, but also ensuring that there is a pathway and there is a fallback, that combination has worked between me and Smita.
The how and you're the big.
She's more the what if. What if it doesn't work? What if that doesn't?
And that's what you rely on her as well as a leader.
I mean, lead would not be here if Smita wasn't there, because I would have run it aground.
Coming back to, we were talking on PNG. You were an important manager, Shirish Joshi, right? What about that feedback? Was there any particular conversation that reshaped your whole mindset, your whole professional mindset at that time? Because you kind of mentioned this somewhere. Yeah.
See, I think in PNG, this was my fourth year, I think. So I was doing decently well. Then I got an assignment which I did not like at all. If I describe it to you, you will go to sleep. It was that boring. So I kind of justified it in my head that if I don't like it, it's okay not to do it well, which in hindsight is not a great way to be. But I did that. So we all went to Singapore, and then there was some planned attrition they were doing. So each one of us would be called into a room and then told whether we had a job or not. So I was called in. One part of me was like I'm good, I have done decently well, so I should be in. But the other part was a little unsure because I wasn't loving that. So Shirish called me in and said that, Sumeet, we had a conversation about you. And of course, there were people who spoke in favor because they have seen your work. But then there was a discussion about you. I want you to be a person about whom there's never a discussion.
I wanted you to be a person
about whom there's never a discussion.
Never a discussion. Okay.
Can you be that? Because currently your job is secure, but if you are that, then you never have to worry. I don't know. I think it just hit me that, I should be performing at a level and with a approach that nobody has ever a question about me. I think I walked out of that room very clear in my mind.
Has to be undebatable.
Undebatable. Performance, character, approach has to be like, nobody should be able to point a finger. Because if somebody is pointing a finger, then it means you are leaving your destiny in somebody's hand. Nice. But if your performance is undebatable, then you don't have to worry. That is what I walked out of the room with. And I think it's just shifted the way I look at work, the way I look at how I interact with others. It's just made a profound difference in my life.
Interesting. And at around this time, you're leading, if I'm not mistaken, healthcare, skincare business, fantastic APAC role, comfortable life in Singapore, right? The destination where everybody wants to get to, many can't. But by this time, did you start feeling now that something is like missing? Was there some internal voice? Because I know the next phase leads you to that big 2-year sabbatical, 6 months sabbatical.
6 months sabbatical.
Right? So was there something brewing internally at this time?
I think it was, so a couple of things happened. Or was it just a
dislike for that project?
No, that project happened way back. Then I moved to healthcare brand managerships. I was handling Australia, New Zealand, India. It was a good role.
And this was 5 years out of campus?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
And what happened was my dad fell ill. So I came back to India for a couple of months to take care of him. And see, when you look at your country from the outside, you have a very different perspective. Yeah. When I'm living here, I'm part of the ocean. Yeah. When I look at it from outside, I can see the ocean, right? So I saw that there is so much to be done here. And we've been brought up, because my dad was a partition kid. So I've been brought up with a very high sense of patriotism, love for the country. Every time I used to come back to India, I was like, there is so much to do. What am I doing in Singapore? And then, once you start to, it's almost like once you've achieved the peak there, like successful, you are looking at what is the next thing. My next thing was more of the same. Like I would look at my manager and see that the work they're doing is not very inspiring. And then I would look at India and I was like, there's so much to be done. So that push and pull started to chafe at my nerves. So I told my manager, I want to quit. He said, what are you going to do? I said, I'll go back to India and figure out, but I don't want to do this anymore because I'm not having fun. So he said, if you don't know what you want, don't leave.
Take a break.
Take a break and figure out. I was like, this is a good idea. Let me take a break. So I took a break and came back to India for 6 months to figure out what did I want to do. And I taught at one of the management colleges. I consulted and I also took kids out for a summer camp. Basically, I was trying different things. And I realized that with adults, like the management I mean, I was good, but I wasn't having fun because I realized the basic plumbing is done of those kids. So I would give them case studies, and the responses I would get, even if I taught, it wasn't making much of a difference. And these kids, we took them to Dalhousie for a summer camp for 10 days. And we had created a curriculum called Beyond Books. So all
This
these
is all while you were still in PNG on a break.
yeah. On a break, first 2 months I did this. So the idea was we play all these games, dumb charades or Pictionary and stuff, and kids have so much fun. How do we bring in the curriculum inside? So we took them and we did this. After 10 days, these kids didn't want to go back home. Their parents came to pick them up. Everybody was crying, no, I don't want to, all of that. And I told Smita, I had so much fun. This is what I'm going to do. I want to work with kids because I think I can make a difference and I have a lot of fun. So that in that sabbatical is when I realized that it's education with young kids and not adults.
But did PNG teach you something? I'm sure, having seen marketing, customer insight, easy to describe. I've become an entrepreneur myself after spending 8 years in an investment bank. I know a lot of what I've done, a lot of foundational work in institution building, took roots somewhere there. Did you learn something insightful from PNG?
PNG taught me a lot of things. I think two big ones are customer empathy.
Okay.
So whenever we are designing a solution or whenever you're designing anything, can you walk in the shoes of the customer or the user and see it from their perspective? Because then you are able to solve for real problems. Because very often what happens is we sit in a room and say, "Aisa karna chahiye, waisa karna chahiye, we should do this, we should do that." And it's so far removed from the customer's reality that when you eventually go to market, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But just being there, so when I was handling healthcare or when I was handling beauty care, we would actually go and see where they took a bath, how did they do it, how would they do their beauty care regimen. So to really understand deep customer insights. So that I think was one thing I learned from PNG. So like even if you look at how we have built Lead, it's very, very driven by those insights.
Would you, and so go ahead, finish. Yeah.
The second thing I learned was communication. PNG teaches you that it's not about what you are saying, it's about what you land. Because very often we speak
How it lands.
And like what, being intentional about what you want to land.
Okay.
Because very often we start speaking and then think, but it's about just being intentional about what you want to land.
Yeah.
Because then you can make an impact. These are the two big things I learned from PNG.
Having seen that journey, would you recommend to kids today coming out of campus to work in a large institution? Is that a good segue before you start up, or doesn't really matter? If you have an idea, you have a white space, just go start it.
See, I feel more than the teaching or the context, it is the learning mindset that is important. If you have the learning mindset, you say na, when you are ready, the master appears.
Correct.
So if you have the learning mindset, whether you are in a large company or you are in a startup or in a small, you will figure out. If you don't have a learning mindset, you can be anywhere and you will not.
It doesn't matter.
So to my mind, the learning mindset is more important. It's not whether you go into a large company or a small company.
We'll spend a little time on that very pivotal break. You took this 10-day Vipassana retreat. Was it that silence that gave you clarity in your life's purpose?
See, I think, so Vipassana I did at a very, it was a tough phase of my life. I had lost my dad.
Awesome.
And I had chosen to separate from Z after running that company for 5 years. So there was a sense of incompletion. I think more than peace, Vipassana gave me completion. It's almost like, okay, the past is what it is. And now how do I create the clearing to move forward? Because very often what happens in life is that if you're carrying the incompletions of past, you're not able to create a very powerful future because you're just creating the future as an inverse of the past. That's not a very good way of creating a future. So Vipassana gave me completion and a clearance to then start creating, and Lead actually came out of that clearing.
So what happens, I'm very intrigued by this, 10 days of complete silence. What happens to your mind when all that external noise, that reverberation, that mind racing, when that all stops?
I think it's impossible to explain Vipassana because it is very personal. Like how I would experience Vipassana would be so different from how you would experience or how anyone would experience. I can only share my experience. Uh, I don't know. I think we learn that in Buddhism, the whole idea is of impermanence. You don't get attached to things because everything is impermanent. So in theory, it sounds like a cool theory. To experience it is so powerful. So Vipassana helps you experience that, which is that first you come in touch with the only objective reality of our existence, which is our breathing. Like when we are talking, you're not even aware of your breathing, right? Just becoming aware of your breathing ensures that all the other things that are playing, they kind of go away and you're just centered. And then you go the next step to just experience your vibrations. And vibrations is a pulse. So it comes and goes, comes and goes, comes and goes. So that's the micro experience of impermanence. When I'm saying it, it might sound voodoo.
Yeah.
But I think experiencing it so powerful. So when you experience impermanence, then you wonder, like, why do we make such a big deal about small things? Because whatever comes will also go. So it's okay. Can you be equanimous about things? If you can be equanimous, you can be so powerful in dealing with it. So it has helped me deal with stress, pressure, all of the things that people say much better post.
You still apply a lot of those meditating principles even today when you run a $1 billion enterprise?
See, it's almost like when you see something, you can't unsee it, right? So Vipassana is like that. Once you become aware of what affects you, you can't become unaware.
Of.
So what it does is, like, today, I become aware that I am getting stressed. And the trick is that it's not that you will not get stressed. I mean, you will experience stress based on whatever is happening. But if you become aware, then you can do something about it. So very often, if, for example, I'm unhappy, I would literally walk out of a meeting, go to the side room, take deep breaths, center myself, and then come back, because I know I'm going to be ineffective if I just give in to my emotions. So becoming aware is the power this thing gives you.
In June 27, I think just before you left PNG, you took to poetry, and I think you wrote something called "The Heart Is Not Happy."
Yeah.
What was that about?
Actually,
like, was there some internal conflict? I know you touched upon it. What was this poem about?
So,
what compelled you to write it?
Actually, my form of expression, whenever I have to think through, is poems. I write. So at that point, what had happened was, I was very clear I wanted to move back to India and work in education.
You had arrived at that decision.
Yeah, I was clear. Smita wasn't there yet, and she had a great career in PNG. So I first offered that should we live as split family. She was like, then what's the point of being married if you're going to live as split family? Okay, fine. Then I said, okay, then I kind of continued in PNG for some time, and she saw how miserable I was. So one day she said, yeah, if it is this bad, then quit. It's okay. I said, ठीक है. So we'll move back to India. She said, okay. 2 days later, we realized we were expecting Zoya. Now that was like a big moment, because, when you are dinks, it's easy. The moment we realized we had Zoya, then all the other implications of, moving back, where will she be, we will raise her, all of that stuff. So I told Smita, are you sure still? She was like, now that we have decided, let's just jump in. So that was the turmoil in my mind on whether I should.
It take a lot to convince her friends ki yaar, cushy job, Singapore, what are you doing coming back? Or you were it was very sharp in your head, mission clear.
One thing which is, I don't listen to people a lot.
Your inner voice is what?
Yeah. Actually, my dad used to, when I was a kid, he used to berate me for it कि ये सुनता नहीं है किसी की. Later, I think he realized कि it's a strength, and your strengths are also your weaknesses, right?
सुनोगे सबकी, करोगे अपनी.
Actually, yeah. So which is, I think, one good thing which has helped me is that if you listen to everyone, then your life is going to be the mean of the world.
Yeah, correct.
Because, it just kind of averages out. If you listen to your heart, then you will really, really do what you truly believe in, and what you truly believe in, if you do, then you excel in it, right? And I don't think this was clear to me when I was a kid. I was lucky that I was this way, and it kind of worked out. So my dad called Smita and said, "What is he doing? Like, why would you leave such a great job, such a great life, blah blah blah, and come back to India and do this? You have no, like, you don't even know what you're going to do." So Smita told him that if he's made up his mind, he must have thought through it. So now is the time to support versus question.
Yeah.
And that's the great thing about having a life partner, who would just support you in your dreams versus being like a barrier. So that's, like I said, PNG's biggest gift is Smita. Yeah.
Okay. Now comes the first tryst with learning, right? With education. I think this is 07 Z.
07, yeah.
Right. You took what, a 20 CR company at that time when you joined? Young CEO, 20 CR company, and 5x, 100 crores, I think, when you exited. What were you really building in Z? What was it beyond the numbers for you?
Actually, between the time I decided to quit PNG and join Z, I read a lot about education because I knew I had a passion for it, but I didn't know anything about it. So I read a lot, and that reading basically told me that early years.
After already you took those students.
Yeah, that was in 2005.
Yeah.
And then after 2005, I started reading a lot, like multiple intelligences, all of the theories of education. What it told me was that early childhood is really critical. So, in fact, how I joined Z was also an interesting story, that I was wanting to move back to India, and I thought I'll come and start up. So I was talking to a few people, and somebody said, "Why don't you meet Subhash Chandra?" And I was like, "What does he have to do with education? Because he's media." He said, "No, they have a small business in education." So I flew down from Singapore. I visited Zealand, and I saw what they were doing. And then I wrote a few points to give it to Subhashji, saying, "This is what I think you should be doing." And I went back to pack my bags and come. 2 weeks later, he called and said, "What you wrote is good. I also want to. Why don't you come and run it?" So then me and Smita spoke that we've been out of India for 8 years. This is a good option where you can go back and
do what you love.
Exactly.
And start with, yeah.
So the risk profile was lower and the ability to impact was faster.
Yeah.
So I said, "This is great." But when I came, on the first week, I asked the people in Zealand, "What business are we in?" Guess what their answer was? They said franchising. It broke my heart. So I said, from today, we are going to say that we are in the business of education. Franchising is a means to an end. That's not a business.
Yeah.
So to change the DNA of the organization from a franchising organization to a education organization was the biggest ask. That is why I had to think deeply about the change in pedagogies, the change in approach, even the change in branding, so that people start to think about it differently. Because I wasn't doing this because I wanted to build a big business. I was doing this because I wanted to make a difference in education.
But here were you still getting that niggling feeling despite creating this impact that you're not really solving the problems you wanted to, and is something missing?
Yeah, I think two things happened. As we started to scale up Zealand, I realized that a lot of the business is still in large towns and upper middle class. And my heart was in small towns and lower income
government
groups.
schools,
Yeah, lower income groups.
Lower income.
But I think I was still kind of persisting because I was having fun, because it was new, I was learning, we were growing the business, and people or parents who we were working with were very glad that we were partnering with them. But then there was a matter of principle on which I and Subhashji disagreed. So we chose to separate. When we parted ways, that's when Vipassana happened. Then I said, okay, now I'm going to just do what I came in for versus trying anything else. So it became clear that now is the time to do something on my own. Yeah.
And this was the biggest pivot, which is 2012.
2012. Yeah.
Right, which is lead school and into lead group.
Actually, it's an interesting story. Me and Smita, we had made a pact that if we have kids, we will have kids 2, not 1, because they will outlast us, right? And then second, we will give them time. So we said first 5 years Smita, because they might need the mom more, and next 5 years I. So when I came back from Vipassana, my plan was I'm going to stay at home with the kids and Smita will start working. And then I thought when I'm at home, it's not like they're going to take all of my time. I will start doing something in this small town, affordable education type. Smita turned back and said, "Okay, I don't think they need us anymore that much. So why don't the two of us do something together?" That's how the idea of doing low fee schools in small towns came. And then, yeah, the lead journey started.
And here Sumit makes his big step from being a CEO of a listed company to suddenly going to a school in Gujarat, 14 students. What did you feel like when you saw 14 kids in that classroom in Areri, if I'm not mistaken, right? What went through your mind?
I think I was very thankful. I was very thankful because nobody...
That 14 showed up.
Yeah, because nobody knew us in that small town. Me and Smita, we were personally kind of standing there and assuring the parents that if you give your kids to us, we'll do something good with them. And then 14 parents showed up. So as a CEO, you are 4 layers away from the customer. You're not there to make these promises, make it happen. But in that school, we were literally getting the furniture set up, getting the rooms ready. When parents would come in, they would talk in Gujarati, we would talk in Hindi and try to explain. And then for 14 of them to trust us with their kids was big. So I remember every single admission, we would celebrate as if it was like the biggest thing that has happened. Day one, these
So you were actually motivated when 14 showed up? It didn't create self-doubt for you?
No.
Ki yaar 14 student? No, not at all.
Actually, one thing which has helped me in life is I don't take myself too seriously.
Okay. What does that mean?
Like there is no sense of self that, I am CEO, I am listed. No, I think it's basically, again, to be operating from your identity is very limiting. But to be operating from your vision is very powerful. Right? So we had agreed that even if we don't make any money from this, when me and Smita decided to do lead, I told her, we did the numbers, I said, if we want to work with low income families and run these schools, we're never going to make money because the fees is such and the costs are such. Are you okay if we never make money ever from this? And we did the numbers and we said, yeah, we are okay because we have enough for the kids' education. Our watermark for lifestyle is very low, so it's okay. So we walked into this whole journey with the idea that we are committing our life for education, not with the intent of making money, but from the intent of solving this problem. Solving this problem, yes. So we opened this school, and a friend had land and building there. They said, why don't you come and run a school there? We said, yeah, this community needs a good school. And I would essentially travel from Bombay to that school at night from Bombay Borivali station and be there for a week, meet the parents and stuff. And Smita was here making the curriculum. And when 14 kids showed up, it was great that, okay, these guys have trusted us and now we have to deliver. 14 became 18, became 35 in the first year. But we were very happy with 35. In fact, a lot of people actually at that point asked me, okay, what are you doing? You were running this company and now you have this small school somewhere in Areri, 35 kids. What are you doing? Like, how is this making sense for you? And in my mind, it was never the end.
Investor asked you? No, this is
not
just
family. Friends, family. My dad wasn't there, but Smita's dad would sometimes say, "Ki, kya kar rahe hai?" 35, like, But
and
in
both
my
have
mind,
jumped into it.
Both have jumped into it. But in our mind, we were clear and we were very content with the fact that we are finally working on a problem we always wanted to work on. And anyways, the expectation is not to make money out of this. So then there is no problem. So we did that school, and in fact, all our learning in education, real learning, happened in that school. All the failures.
Did you choose Areri for a particular reason? Was it or just?
You know what happened when I was running Z-Learn? We would reject schools because they were not at that fee bracket. Like I told you, we were working with upper middle class families, large towns. So a friend of ours had a land and they were running a old age home there. So when I was at Z, she told me, "Can you come and run a school?" I said, "वहाँ पे नहीं चलेगा, right? You know." So when I quit, she said, "Now you don't have an excuse. Come and see." So we went. We spent 2-3 days there. We did like a survey in the 10-kilometer radius around that village, and we realized there were a lot of schools who were quote unquote English medium. I kid you not, when I went inside the classrooms, again it broke my heart. Ki, what is happening there? They're charging 20, 25, 30,000 fees a year, and there is no learning happening there, right? So I said to Preeti, yeah, I think we need to set up a school here, a good quality school. Let's start from here. So it was the first opportunity which came. We said, let's start a school there. And then one thing led to another. So that school, a lot of stuff that we are currently now using at LEAD actually started from that school.
Okay. So for the benefit, me, the audience, explain to us, what does LEAD do?
Today?
Yeah, today.
Today, LEAD works with schools, and what we do is we implement what we call a learning system in a school. See, most schools, the challenge is that when students come, they have a learning gap because they're coming from vernacular speaking families like Gujarati or Marathi or Kannada, but they're going to an English medium school. So they're learning math, science and social studies in the English language when they don't know the language.
Yeah.
So their only solution is to just mug it up and then regurgitate. They don't understand because they don't understand the language.
They're speaking in their vernacular, they're thinking in their vernacular, but they're studying in English.
Exactly. So they will just read it and parrot it. Like they won't understand it.
Yeah.
So if you solve that language problem and then you solve the understanding problem, then you can get the students to grade level. Now, the challenge is that this learning is mediated by a teacher whose own skill is poor, right? So that's the complex problem to solve. There's a student learning problem you have to solve via the teacher who's low skill. So our first attempt was to train teachers.
Okay.
And very soon I realized that training has a very short half-life. Like between the training and the classroom, it just kind of goes down. And then if teachers don't have the tools, they're not able to implement their training into the classroom. So if you look at today, everybody thinks that the problem in education can be solved through better teacher training. I disagree, because I've seen that it doesn't work. I'll give you an example so it becomes clear, right? The same person who would walk in Bombay and spit without thinking or throw garbage, when they go to Singapore, they would not do it. Why? Because the system is different. So our insight was systems drive behaviors, not training.
Systems drive behaviors. Yeah, I agree.
So then we said, how can we create a school learning system which will drive the right actions from the teachers, which will result in learning? That was the problem to solve. So now what we did was we started scripting lesson plans, that if you have 40 minutes in a classroom, how should you teach? Not by training, but giving them a lesson plan. And not just a lesson plan, but also the resources they will need. So if they have to show a video, it's there. If they have to do an activity, the kit is there. Now, when we train, we not train them on some theory. We train them how to implement this system. And when they implement that system for 200 days a year, they become better because it's learning by doing. That's the learning system we implement in a school. And it's now proven.
This is what you started with as a vertical, or this is an evolution?
No. This is all the learning in the first school.
Okay.
Like, because we were in Bombay, the school was in Areri, so we had to really operate that school remotely. So we had to build all of these things, give it to teachers, and then figure out what is working, what is not working, and that's how the learning system got built. But now this proven that if you implement the learning system well, there is clear improvement in learning, both languages and conceptual understanding. And that's now, now we work with 3,500 schools where we implement this learning system.
So I'm a little curious, and having mentioned this, I've seen some absolutely noteworthy stats, right? 3.8 million students, 4 million almost, 400 towns, cities, villages, 50,000 teachers?
More now, 65,000, yeah.
How does a LEAD system manage this vast difference across such diversity and such a massive social, as you mentioned, small town kid, urban city, yet it seems almost virtually impossible. So how does this manage? How do you guys do it?
See, the core insight is the same. The core insight is that a teacher requires a plan and resources integrated with each other so she can execute a good class.
Yeah.
Now, the context changes by board, so CBSE versus state board.
Correct.
It can change by fee bracket. So, a 50,000 fee school is different from a 15,000 school because the child who is coming there is from a different background.
Yeah.
And then the location. A metro student has more exposure and a small town has less. So, you can actually create variants for these different contexts by keeping the same core insight. So, we have now 3 variants of our learning system: Pinnacle Plus, Lead and Propel. And we have variants for board. Pinnacle, Lead and Propel.
Okay.
And we have different variants for boards. So, if you are a Telangana board student, you have a different variant. If you have a CBSE student, different variant. If you have Tamil Nadu board, different variant. But the core insight is the same because teachers require that support to be able to execute in the classroom much better. So it's the same insight now contextualized for different contexts.
Sumit, I'm intrigued, a lot of educational startups, especially the K-12, right? EduComp, etc., without naming more, have kind of failed. They have been their fair share of failure, right, in this segment. What made you think that you can pull it off, and what did you guys do differently that, not just pulled it off, have created one of the best institutions in the country in this space?
I don't think when we started, we were thinking of scaling, success and stuff.
None of that.
We were just focused on solving the problem. So 1 school, then it became 5 schools. When we went so in the first school, the challenge was how do we get the teachers to teach better? In the 5 schools, it was about how do we do it consistently. So we realized that the lesson plan, which was earlier analog and printed, will not work. We have to go digital. We realized that we have to work with all stakeholders. So parents are important. School principal is important because now I'm not the school principal. There are 5 school principals. So we had to build the system to ensure it not only solves for the teaching learning process, but it also solves for other stakeholders like monitoring and reporting. So we built this system for our own schools and then we solved it. Then came a moment of crisis when we realized that we had exhausted all our money in running those 5 schools. And then we were like, okay, what do we do now? Because these schools are still requiring some money. This is 2016. And we had run out of money because we didn't want to touch the money that we had kept for Zoya and his education, right? So that's when we realized that let's go and raise external capital. When we went out to raise external capital, nobody was wanting to fund more schools because these schools were low fee. They were not churning out enough surplus because they were not meant to. So then we said, okay, what should we do? Now again, I always feel that fortune does favor the brave. So while we were doing this, one of my friend called me and said, my father-in-law is running this school in Junnar and I keep hearing of the work that you are doing. So here's a system you have made. Can you offer it to them? I said, okay, why not? If money is coming, at least it will fund more students. So we offered that system to the Junnar school. So then I told Smita, if one school can take it, there are 1.5 million schools in this country. I'm sure other schools will also need the system that we built. So then we started pitching that the system that we built for these 5 schools, if we were to offer it to other schools, will that scale? Because that is scalable and fundable. So Elivar bought into that vision and they said, okay, let's see if we can do 15 schools to take it up. We got 30 in the first year. So they were like, wow, there's something here. They quickly doubled down with the Series B. And then I think it just kind of snowballed because first year 30 schools, then 135, then 600. And yeah, so I think it necessity is also the mother of invention. Yeah, I mean, it's happened like that. It wasn't intentional. To your other point of why others have failed and we have succeeded, I think what happened was We solved it for our own schools first.
Okay.
So it wasn't like we were designing in a lab thinking, okay, how do we build a business and then start to sell?
Yeah.
We said, okay, how do we solve this problem? We solved that problem in our own schools, and then we offered that solution to others. They also saw that it is working. So I keep saying, right, in education, if Saraswati is not there, Lakshmi won't follow.
Yeah.
And if you go behind Lakshmi, then Lakshmi will also not come. So because the solution that we built actually delivers learning outcomes, people then continue with it. There is also positive word of mouth, and it just kind of scales.
Yeah, I'll take you up on that very famous philosophy of yours, Saraswati before Lakshmi. How do you manage this principle when investors want rapid growth?
You know, I told you that a lot of time in my life I have fought these false choices.
Yeah.
This is another one: profit versus purpose.
Yeah.
I feel in education there is no profit versus purpose. Profit has to be through purpose. Because if you don't deliver,
It has to be
through purpose. Because if you don't deliver on learning outcomes, you will not have retention. You will not have positive word of mouth. And if you don't have those two, you will not grow. Investors want growth. You have to coach them that the growth will come through delivery. It won't come by itself. So you can't chase growth, because in education, how would you deliver growth if you're not delivering on learning outcomes? It's like if I'm running a
Which is
hospital.
why you guarantee outcomes and not selling products.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it was very clear to us that there is no other way of growing. It is to help those students learn better, help those schools become better. Automatically growth will come. It's like a byproduct of delivering on your promise.
So when you look back now, 14 or 35 students to 4 million odd, what's that moment when you realize that this could truly become a $1 billion enterprise? So that's something you weren't even chasing. You wanted to chase the impact. When you look back, was there any like moment where it switched 5 to 30 and then you thought, yeah, now 30 needs to go into like millions?
If I'm being honest with you, the only mistake I made is I think for some period we got distracted with this valuation bit, which was during COVID. It just messed with our mind. If I could undo one thing, it would be that. Like, I think till we were focused on just delivering outcomes and getting to more schools and more students, we were doing fine. This vanity metric of, what you're valued at just unnecessarily messes with your mind. After COVID, we again got back to our core purpose. Things are better. So to my mind,
2022 you hit unicorns.
22, which was just after COVID, and COVID was tough for everyone. So I would say that if we just continue doing what we're doing in terms of serving more schools and more students, the outcomes will come, whether it is valuation or whether it is other things, they'll come. So I don't want to be focused on them anymore.
Brings me to a question as, founders scale, right? In your leadership, how do you keep aligning people as the company grows? You get in next in line. How do you keep maintaining that focus on purpose? What do you do as a leader to keep the organization continuously focused on its purpose?
I think
because the single person sitting down in a branch somewhere for some manager managing a team of 2 and 3 people who have a very different set of matrices, right? But still have important decisions to make.
Yeah.
How do you as a leader keep them focused on their purpose? What do you do differently?
See, the simple thing is, how can you simplify purpose into operating metrics? So if a person is in a field, she or he is not thinking about purpose. She or he is thinking about what do I need to do the next day. My job is to distill the purpose into operational metrics. So when we are working with schools, we have a simple mantra: deliver value, then demand growth. Now, for an excellence person, what does deliver value mean? So their metrics is very simple: student learning outcome in the school. For the customer success person, metrics is very simple: if the school is growing, you will grow. Now, if we can simplify purpose to these simple things, then they remember.
In every department,
In every department,
matrice. Yeah.
So when you are going and signing a school, don't sign a school which will not retain, which will not implement. Because there's no point signing a school who's not interested in implementing. They will
Block a
just
sales number or
exactly.
Yeah.
So how do I simplify my purpose into simple operating metrics at each level is the first goal. And at leadership level, it translates to how do I hire people of the right mindset and be completely intolerant to value or mission misalignment. Completely intolerant. If we do these two things, then automatically that culture starts to get built. Because
And you felt somewhere in COVID, you all moved away from
we did,
that
yeah. We made
purpose
we made mistakes, yeah.
and started looking at different matrices.
Yeah.
So you've seen this whole journey, and I know one of the core elements still go back to that small town, and as you articulated, I wouldn't say anger, but a little bit of angst and irritability when you see talented kids in small towns struggling with problems, but average kids in metros succeed. What goes on in your mind today when you still see that, and what are you doing in Lead to kind of bridge that?
See, today, 90 odd % of our schools are in small towns.
90.
Yeah. In fact, in the first few years, we had said we will not want to sign schools in metros because they don't need us. The need is in small towns. And again, people would say, profit zone is there. Why are you working here? Here, there is no money to be made. We were not thinking from the perspective of whether this will make money. We were thinking, where is the need and where is the biggest problem? So a large number of our schools are in tier 3, tier 2 towns, rural areas, because that's where we are able to make the maximum impact. I've also realized that it's unfair. I mean, it was immature of me to think that students from metros have it easier than students from small towns. They have different problems.
Yeah.
So at some point of my life, I've also changed this sense of unfairness to a sense of purpose and also a sense of empathy for all students.
Okay.
But that's also, I think, what maturity is about. You start by being very personal.
Correct.
And looking at the past, but then thinking about it is what it is, and then what do you do about it is the big question.
So little bit of a sidebar because you've touched upon this on the kids element, so I'll kind of segue into that. You've often mentioned you have 3 children, right? 2 teenagers and Lead. How do you balance being a father to your kids and to a company that demands so much out of you?
One is I'm blessed with 2 kids who don't require that much of our attention. They are fairly self-directed now.
How old are they now?
So Zoya is 17 and a half and Ane is 15.
Okay.
Lead is also now a teenager. But the other thing is that we have made them, so in leadership, there is this aspect of enrolling people into your vision.
Yeah.
We enrolled Zoya and Ane into what is important for us quite early.
Wow.
So they know what is important for us. They know that our work is really important for us because it's not just them, but there are 4 million other kids who we are also responsible for.
Yeah.
So therefore, when kids see their parents happy and fulfilled in the work that they are doing, they don't see it as time away from them. They see it as a standard to aspire for.
Yeah.
And I think somehow we've been able to manage that they also now see that if we are spending time at work, it is for something worthwhile and contributing to the country, and therefore they are equal partners in it now.
So talking about Zoya, you've said this, that talent is equally distributed but opportunity is not. So when you see today your own kids, right, both your teenage children, getting the kind of opportunities that you didn't have, does that honestly stir a different set of emotions in you?
It's great that we are able to provide them opportunities which we didn't have. My dad used to say that progress is when the next generation moves 10x from the previous generation. Yeah. If there is no shifting of orbit, there is no progress.
Yeah.
He provided us that orbit where like born in a small town like Pathankot, I'm now having this conversation with you. Zoya and Ane, I'm hoping can do much more because that will be progress. They are insanely privileged. They're also aware that they are privileged. Uh, my only hope is that they do something with that privilege which is worthwhile in making this world a better place. So that's the value or quality we want to imbue in them. And what can you do with your privilege versus just enjoying it?
Beautiful. So I'll end this section by asking a little bit of a go back to where we started this conversation from. If today you could go back and tell your parents in Pathankot on that same dinner and lunch table where those apples were cut and those math lessons were taught, uh, what would you say to them?
To my dad,
And what would you think they would say to you, seeing where Lead is today?
I have a bit of a sense of loss as far as my dad is concerned because he's not seen this journey. We lost him in 2010 and the Lead journey began after that. So I sometimes wish that if he was here to witness this journey, he would not only have contributed with his advice, but he would have also felt that the work that he started in Pathankot and Punjab, I'm kind of carrying forward. My sense is I may have a deep feeling of gratitude towards my parents. For my father for giving me a lot of the values that I still live by. My sense of purpose comes from him. And to my mother for a lot of the human values that I've got, like patience and just not take yourself too seriously, uh, sublimate your ego to the larger good. That I think I've got from my mom. So I have immense gratitude for my parents. I think I won that genetic lottery of having parents who you could just gain so much from.
And you've shared a lot of what your parents taught you in those days back as well as in your teenage years. What are you teaching your kids today?
I'm not trying to teach anything intentionally to the kids because I've realized they don't, values are not taught, they're caught. So if they can see us living life a certain way, I'm sure they will, it's like osmosis, right? They will absorb something. Because parents, when they teach, it sounds pedantic and kids resist. And then persistence again causes resistance. So I felt that we should just live our lives. Sometimes it's helpful to decode it for them on why we are doing what we are doing. So if we are making some decisions or if we are making some choices, we try to explain to them why we have done it without the expectation that they will absorb it. But I know at some place it is registering in their mind, and at a certain appropriate time they will reach back and look at that insight or look at that comment. If you're able to do that, I think that's enough in terms of imbibing values or giving them any learnings.
My final question on this section, before we come to you as the leader, you're in a beautiful sweet spot and a vantage point, and I'll explain how, of running a tech company as well, right, and hiring engineers and changing the education system, right, through Lead as a group, and also teaching children, right? In this world of AI today, let's step back last 40 years, a lot of parents were obsessed about making their children engineers, coders. We had edtech startups that built billions on teaching kids coding, right? What should parents be encouraging their kids today to pick up as a skill? As somebody who's seeing what's happening in this world to your workforce and running something that's also skilling and training teachers and an education system. So in that corridor, what do you see as what do parents need to take away and how can they skill their kids today?
I love what Jeff Bezos says, right? A lot of people are focused on what's changing. If you focus on what will remain the same, then you can build sustainable enterprises. Same applies to education. If I go back to Mahabharata times, Gurukuls was there, right? A lot of technological innovation has happened. But the idea that kids under 14 require the presence of a guiding adult to get education has persisted. Now, what are the skills or mindsets or knowledge that will persist despite AI? A growth mindset is required because the world is continuing to change. If you have a growth mindset, which is that you are continuously being able to learn in the face of change, you are going to succeed. If you are able to think independently and deeply about things, that will not change. If you are able to articulate your thoughts in a clear manner, if you are able to work with people, these four basic skills don't change. The way it is taught, the way you learn, the way you apply, that might change. So I would say that we keep getting caught up in the latest fad, the latest technology. When internet came, people said world is going to change. When television came, world is going to change. When radio came, world is going to change. AI, world will change. World will of course change, but it will change at the shallow, symptomatic layer. At the deep layer, it won't.
Okay.
Kids would need to continue to do these four things. That's what we should focus on.
Growth mindset, learning.
Growth mindset, thinking, communicating, collaborating. These four things. So, and then when they come to grade 8 and 9, like a kid who's born today, when they come to grade 8 and 9, this will be like 2038. We'll see what are the latest things, and then you take that career and pursue it. Why worry about it now? Worry on the fundamentals.
Beautifully said. So we'll come to our last section, Sumeet the Leader. Okay, let's open this by asking you a very simple question. If I were to ask somebody in the lead group, I met them for coffee and I said, describe Sumeet for me, describe his leadership for me in 3 words. What do you think they would say?
3 words. I hope they say inspiring,
Okay.
helpful,
Okay.
listens well.
Good listener.
Good listener.
Okay. And when you self-reflect, what is the one trait that you've wanted to change in your leadership the most? That you think, oh, that's got in the way a lot of times in your leadership?
What has gotten in the way of my leadership?
Yeah, or some leadership trait that you wanted to work on or change in yourself.
I think when I set my mind to something, I don't listen well.
Very anal and
Sometimes people have conflicting opinion on whether this is the right idea or whether it is achievable. And I feel that it is their own mental barrier is coming in the way of seeing what I'm seeing versus really listening that maybe they have a point. And sometimes I've realized that they were right and I was wrong. And if I had listened better, then maybe we would have avoided some mistakes that we've done in the past.
when you look at a high performer or high achiever today, in today's context, what does a high performer look to you like?
A person of high integrity. So if you commit something, you deliver it. If you're not being able to deliver it, you tell it before the fact versus post facto, because post facto it's an excuse. And you're authentic.
Authenticity.
Those two I think are important.
And are those must-haves on your leadership team as well?
Yeah, so the values that we hold dear in our leadership team is what we call being the cause, which is operate in your circle of influence.
Being the cause.
Being the cause.
Okay.
Growth mindset, continue to learn, and courage with empathy, integrity and authenticity.
So what's a really difficult leadership decision that you've had to take, a really tough call in the last, let's say, half a decade or even a decade since you've built, and what is that tough call resulted in that you're really proud of?
Letting go of leaders who were good in terms of their functional skills and performance, but were misaligned on values and mission was a tough one, because we wanted to chase a certain growth path, and it would have become difficult if we had separated. But I think in the long term it has worked out well, because now our leadership team is a lot more cohesive, there's a lot less stress, and we are pulling in the same direction.
more aligned
more aligned.
to your value system.
Yeah.
And any particular failure that you feel that has, I'm not going to this time, not taught you a lesson, but taught you something more about human beings and people? Is there any failure, any particular incident or an anecdote of failure, think through it, that has taught you something or an insight about people or human beings?
So when we opened our first school, Shantiniketan, which is the school I spoke about, 3 years into running that school, we came to a point where that school was going to be shut down, because we had entered into that partnership with the expectation that they would turn over the land to a trust, and then we would apply for CBSE affiliation. At some point, the owner said we will not be transferring the land. So we had now put in 3 years of work into it, and if they did not transfer the land, CBSE affiliation would not come, and the school would be shut down. We were 135 students at that time in that school. So the choice in front of us was, should we shut down the school? What do we do? I don't know what happened. I didn't think it through, but at the spur of the moment, my natural reaction was, let's continue the school. You take it. Let's not put the 135 students at risk. You run it. We will step out, and we will support you from outside. What I realized was that, going in, people have the right intentions. But when it comes to tough choices, a lot of people operate from self-interest. Maybe rightly so. I mean, you can wrong them, but they're operating from self-interest. So the importance of legal documentation and just ensuring that intentions are converted into agreements is very important, because I somehow am a person who leads with trust. But sometimes I think it's important to convert that arrangement or trust or understanding into an agreement, so that when the moment comes, people don't have a backdoor to kind of escape. And it has happened a few more times. And now I listen more to Smita in terms of, okay, this is fine, but let's get the agreement done. Let's get the documentation done.
She's the one you mentioned who crosses the T's, dots the I's.
Yeah.
Okay. And any leaders that, really that you look up to today, that, or in the past, that have really inspired you and feel that have played a very pivotal role or a fulcrum in how you've shaped your leadership style? Anybody?
Personally, my dad.
Yeah, you've mentioned that. Yeah.
Professionally, after PNG, I haven't had experiences where there were leaders I was working with who I looked up to. In PNG, Shirish, who is now, I think, the global CEO in PNG, he taught me one thing. So he said, you should always carry your resignation in your back pocket.
What's this about?
So I was like, why, Shirish? He said, it allows you to operate without fear. So you will always do the right thing and not fear about what they will say or your job and stuff, which I think is an interesting way to think about things, that if you know that what you're doing is right, then you don't have to worry about others. So Shailesh, I look up to. Shirish is another one I look up to. Mohit is another guy. He's now, I think, I don't know what he's doing now, but he was the Kellogg CEO. He taught me the power of what you want to land versus what you want to say. So yeah, I think these are 3 leaders I've learned from.
And how does Sumeet as a leader, we started and you said you're in the midst of a very hectic eval season. So when you sit in an eval with Sumeet, how does Sumeet as a leader give feedback to his CXOs?
My focus when I'm giving feedback is what will help this person move forward. Because a lot of times we give feedback in terms of what went wrong, what could you do better. It always puts the other person in a defensive mode. But if you focus
justifying it,
exactly, they will start justifying, resisting. If you focus on saying that I'm really interested in your progress and your success, here are the 2 things that can actually help you do really well, then there is no resistance. It's an offer, and then the other person can take it. And also in lead, we do a lot of work in setting the right context for feedback. That feedback is really a gift that somebody is giving you.
Yeah.
So if you are open to accepting it, you can actually do wonders going forward. But if you resist it, you are the only one who's actually not benefiting. So I think that has also helped.
So what's that beautiful gift that somebody has given you in feedback? Who did it come from and what did they tell you?
I keep getting feedback from Smita. I think there are a couple of things that she keeps saying it again and again. One, of course, is that when I'm wedded to an idea that this should work, it's both a strength and a weakness, right? Because I'm persistent, it works, but sometimes I get attached to it. And her thing is that you maybe want to take a distance and be objective about it. Second, I'm not very choiceful in terms of things that we should be doing. I always want to do a lot because I always feel that there's now maybe 20, 25 years of working that I'm left with, and there is such a big problem, so much to do. So let's kind of move fast. Her thing is that while you might have the pleasure of doing a lot, we also know that if you do multiple things, you're not able to excel in each of them. So being choiceful actually is helpful. These are two feedbacks I get. Now I get a little less of it than in early days because I think I'm getting a little better at it. She can confirm whether I am or not. Yeah, those two feedbacks is what I get.
And when you measure yourself today as a CEO versus, let's say, half a decade ago, how will that matrice change for you half a decade or a decade down the road? How will the matrice on what you measure yourself on, not you as a leader, how is that matrice evolving and changing?
5 years back, it was about, are we moving lead forward? Are we growing the business? Are we making the impact? Today, I'm thinking a lot more about, am I building the next generation of leaders? Because if we don't, then we're not going to be able to scale and do what we need to do. 5 years down the line, it would be if the operational leadership doesn't require me in the room, then I think we've kind of reached at a level where the organization can propel itself forward. 3 years back, me and Smita were walking and it just hit us that this thing that we have taken on is so much bigger than us, and it's not going to get solved in our lifetime. It is not. 270 million kids. So we said the only hope is that we build an organization which solves it even after us. And since then we've become a little more deliberate towards organization building versus directly solving. So having people who would then solve, think, independently come up with ideas has become more important than we solving it.
Okay, beautifully said. So that brings me to give me a hint for my final question on this leadership section. A decade from today, the lead group will look like dash.
A decade from today, the lead group would be serving 25 million students across 25,000 or maybe 30,000 schools and contributing to the education policy of this country.
Superb. With that, I am going to come to a surprise rapid fire, which we haven't shared with you or your team. We want all your natural expressions. I'm not going to let you pass any. We'll come back to it. Okay. Some fun, some serious. And we'll do a quick fire with Qunba starting now. The hardest thing about being a CEO is dash.
You don't have too many friends in the company.
One thing you've learned never to do as a leader.
Never do anything that you don't want published on the front page of a newspaper.
Or these days on Instagram.
On Instagram.
One thing you've learned always to do as a leader.
Aim for fairness.
Yeah. One thing you wish people knew a lot more about you, Sumeet.
I love to write poetry.
Okay. One personality trait that gets in your way the most.
There isn't any.
Nothing. A leader who's captivated your imagination.
Nowadays, Elon Musk.
Okay. One startup platform that's caught your eye or you really admire.
Can't think of any.
We'll come back. You will have something. When in doubt, Sumeet Mehta dash.
Think,
Thinking.
introspect.
Introspect. The most aha moment of your career is
I think the Shirish Joshi conversation.
a job you secretly wanted but didn't get.
A choreographer.
A favorite buzzword you completely dislike hearing from your team in meetings.
Blitzkrieg growth.
Okay, I know where that's directed. 70-hour work week.
I love it. I do it. I feel that because I love my work, I don't see a demarcation between work and life.
Your favorite movie or character when we say the word leadership.
Tamasha is a movie I love. It basically focuses on doing what you love. I think if leaders do what they love, then they bring their natural excellent self to work. Yeah, so that's a movie I love.
Saket's favorite movie. One business leader who you wish you had as your teacher.
Mukesh Ambani.
A secret vice.
I sometimes doom scroll.
One founder you'd love to be a co-founder with today.
Smita is the best I've got. Yeah.
Okay, safe. Besides his family, Sumit's most prized possession is dash.
My books.
One thing on your personal to-do list that's been there for the longest time.
Zoya is going to college, right? So I have to do a few things in terms of her health insurance and stuff. It's been there for now 2-3 months and Smita is after me, but I never get to it.
You're most grateful for your life about?
The opportunity to be able to do what you love is a privilege that not a lot of people get. I got, so I'm really thankful for that.
A moment from your life you'd love to relive?
Smita and I went on a vacation to Antarctica. I think I saw nature at its most pristine with a person who I love. I think that combination was amazing.
If you were down to your last crore in your bank, what would you bet on?
Open one more school.
And last one for today, wrapping this up, if you had a giant billboard and could put a one-line message to millions of students out there, what would that message be?
Listen to your heart.
Listen. With that, Sumeet Mehta, it's been an absolute privilege having you with us on Qunba Season 3. Thank you very, very, very much for doing this.
Lovely having
a
this
very
conversation.
candid chat.